Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. So, as I've been digging through various boxes to find action figures to feature on my channel, I noticed a number of different curiosities in my collection. And what I was noticing is when it got into the time period of the prequel toys, beginning with this one, they started to take a more risky approach in terms of what they were presenting for these toys. And these are toys, although primarily the audience buying these is collectors. However, they clearly are marketed towards children, at least in some way. So, and I noticed on this one, this particular episode one set, they featured the break part Darth Maul, and the middle of this figure is held together with a magnet. So this is interesting that they were willing to sort of create a version of the toy where you could reenact the scene from the movie where Darth Maul gets chopped in half. And that is one of the more graphic elements of episode one. And does it make sense to actually make that as a toy, or is it better to have the child sort of use their imagination? My guess is that the approach on this one was, well, collectors want a break apart Darth Maul, so let's make one. And he is a bad guy. He's obviously out to do the same thing to Obi-Wan Kenobi. So they are in a battle to the death. So one of them has to go. So the Darth Maul I can show you out of the package. And out of the package, essentially it's done in a very kind of sanitized way. There's just a magnet in there holding this together at the middle. So there's nothing particularly gruesome about it. Although chopping someone in half, I don't know if you can't see that as gruesome in some kind of way. There is some risk to be had in terms of presenting this as a toy, but this is where I start to notice a trend where they're willing to sort of go down a road where you could reach a point where you're sort of crossing the line in terms of what's in good taste for the child audience anyway. So because you don't want to have a situation where essentially you're producing a toy where eventually you're going to get emails from parents saying, hey, why did you make this toy? It gave my kid nightmares. So yeah, you don't want that to happen. And so I guess it's sort of a fine line as a company, what you're going to produce as a toy. So the next one I want to talk about is from episode 2. And so these were produced in 2002 when the movie came out. And this set in particular interested me because the depiction of Anakin Skywalker chopping up these Geonosians is pretty graphic, especially since they actually show the figure in pieces here. And you could say on one hand, oh, he's an alien, he's a bug. Anakin's just being an exterminator, getting rid of these guys. But this is a sentient being. It's not as if he's stepping on a mosquito. This thing is human sized, and this also depicts it in a way which is never featured in the movie. So we do see Anakin wielding 2 lightsabers at one point, but it's not in the context of fighting off the Geonosians. It's actually when he's dueling Count Dooku. Although Anakin does chop up a bunch of these characters when he's in the droid factory, but not in this way. So it's interesting. The one thing that can be said for the designers of Star Wars toys is they're only given a certain amount of information for a new movie. So in that context, they are kind of flying blind in terms of, how to actually depict things. But when we get into action figures that are made for movies that have been around for a while, that's when you get into territory where the full context of the scene is actually understood. So, and in this case, we're talking Luke Skywalker, Bespin duel. And here you actually see him depicted with his hand removed, and he is all beaten and bloodied as well. So, yeah, this one's pretty harsh as well. And again, it is movie accurate. And we have seen the Power of the Force 2 version of Bespin Luke also had the removable hand, but it was never depicted in this way in the packaging. So interesting approach here. And again, you're sort of like, you're wondering, does it make sense to actually make this toy in this way? I know the collectors love it, but at the same time, do you want a child playing with a toy like this that could potentially, make them upset? So I want to get into talking about the figures from episode 3, but before we do that, I want to talk about one more figure from episode 2, and that is this one, which is the final battle version of Jango Fett. And this one was pretty cool and featured sort of a launching fireball that you could fire out of his gauntlet. But it also included a more graphic feature, which, if you have a Mace Windu action figure, you can actually recreate the death of Jango Fett because you can actually decapitate him because the head is held on with a magnet, very much the same way that they did the break apart Darth Maul. So yeah, interesting and also kind of graphic. And I guess you could kind of blame George Lucas for putting a decapitation in the movie. But at the same time, does that need to be made into a toy? That is sort of the question. So next we're going to talk about these Episode 3 action figures. And the first one that I noticed was this battle-damaged version of Anakin Skywalker. This one allows you to basically recreate the scene from the movie where Anakin Skywalker sort of falls near the lava and gets all burned up. So it features a burned version of Anakin, which you can basically transform into this version by swapping out the arms. It should be noted that the lower part of the legs on this figure are also removable too, so you can have the version of him with just the stumps. So yeah, pretty graphic in terms of the overall depiction of this toy. But they did one better, actually. They decided to go ahead and do the rebuild Darth Vader, which was a deluxe set. So you got the full operating table where Darth Vader is sort of put back together as a machine. So, and you could say, oh, well, this isn't too bad. It's basically just Darth Vader on an operating table. But when you actually get into the details of what this figure actually shows, yeah, it gets pretty graphic. So you can actually take Darth Vader out of there, and then you can basically take him apart because the helmet comes off, so you can see the gruesome look of Darth Vader scarred and bloodied underneath there. And you can also remove this hand too, so you can see what that looks like underneath there. And also this hand comes off as well, so you can remove that. And you can also remove his legs, so those come off as well. So leaving Darth Vader looking pretty shabby. And also this chest piece also comes out as well, so you can take that out. So yeah, you can kind of put Anakin Skywalker, aka Darth Vader, in a pretty bad place if you really want to. So I question this. Is this too graphic? Is this too gruesome? Again, it's not outside of the context of the scene. This is actually, what happens in the movie. In fact, it's a little more gruesome when you actually see it on screen. But again, does this need to be made into a toy? That is the question. Interesting to sort of ponder these things. So in 2007, Hasbro did a line of figures called the 30th Anniversary. And here you can see they did the torture rack version of Han Solo. Again, kind of depicting a scene which is actually quite disturbing in the movie, where Darth Vader is actually torturing Han Solo strapped into this weird looking device. And they sort of cut away in the movie, so you can hear, Han Solo screaming as he's tortured, but you don't actually see most of the torture as it's happening. So it's happening off screen. But they produced this toy, and again, I loved it because I'm a collector, and I thought it was great to have a version of the scene that you could recreate. However, does it make sense to do it as a child's toy, or is this more or less an adult collectible? That is sort of the question. Can you find the right balance between, depicting the more disturbing stuff from the movie and deciding which ones of those actually get turned into toys? So one last set that I'd like to talk about is one that I don't actually have in my collection, but I've seen photographs of it. And it is called The Disturbance at Lars Homestead, and it includes reissues of Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. These are figures that I already had in my collection, so I really had no desire to actually pick these up. So Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, I already had them, and also I had a number of versions of the Sand Trooper, so I don't think I necessarily have the specific one that was in that set, but it wasn't really necessary to get it. It also included part of the Lars Homestead, the part of the building that includes the entrance. So, and the weird thing about this set is the context of it, because there's only one way that the scene actually goes. And the scene is never actually shown in the movie. What we see in the movie is actually the aftermath of the carnage, basically, where you see the burning skeletons of Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru after they've been annihilated by the stormtroopers. And the homestead is all burned up. So Yeah, we see it in the context of, Luke finding the scene, but they produced this toy version of it, and I understand to some extent why. For the people who missed out on getting Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, it actually made sense to kind of release this set. But the context of it is very disturbing. It even has disturbance in the name of the toy. So, yeah, this one's pretty questionable. So on a personal level, I don't really have a problem with any of these toys. But then again, I am an adult collector, and nothing really seems to bother me too much in terms of what goes on with action figures. However, I can see that there is a line that maybe you don't want to cross in terms of presenting this material as children's toys. So, and I can certainly understand why some people might find some of this stuff disturbing. So I guess you just sort of have to find the right balance. That's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos about Star Wars action figures in the future, think about subscribing to my channel because I will be covering more of this kind of stuff in future videos. Until next time, I hope you're having a great day, and may the Force be with you. Thanks for watching.